How many animals entered Noah's Ark? And did dinosaurs enter as well? Is the Ark real history or just a mythical story? Later in this video, we will answer this with precision, looking at other insights that science provides. Let's begin like this. Two men. One served in the US Army in Iran back in the 1940s. The other lived in Turkey 50 years before. Different eras. They never met, never spoke a word, never read each other's accounts. But when researchers read their recorded testimonies, decades apart, they were stunned. The records of Hagopian and Davis Batten, exactly. And the descriptions are identical. This fueled their spirits to keep exploring. The scale of the project. Today we talk about Noah's Ark. Not the colorful little boat you learned about in school, nearly 4,500 years of history, and what I will tell you in this video is everything we know about Noah's Ark. Stay until the end, because what you will discover will completely change how you see this story. In Noah's day, there was no record of rain. Probably the concept didn't even exist. God said it would rain, and Noah built a boat to protect himself from something no human had ever seen. Imagine if a voice said in your mind, build a 450-foot bunker because monsters will rise from the ground and devour everything. It's the same thing. Monsters rising from the soil never happened. It was never heard of. Back then, rain had never happened either. Keeping that in mind, would you build that bunker? What Noah heard was unprecedented, with no reference, no proof that the threat was real. Just a voice and an obedience that would take decades to materialize in wood, nails, and pitch. Genesis 6 presents Noah with three words: righteous, blameless, walked with God.
Turn away from violence. God will bring a flood.
Meanwhile, the earth was filled with violence. And it was exactly in this scenario, the worst of humanity, that God handed Noah the greatest construction project in human history. The blueprints and engineering, the dimensions. What Genesis actually describes. Genesis 6 gives the exact measurements: 300 cubits long, 50 wide, 30 high. Comparing with Babylonian, Egyptian, and Hebrew cubits, we reach a structure of approximately 450 feet in length. 3 football fields placed side by side. Internal volume of 1.4 million cubic feet. Space enough for a 67-story building with apartments of 2,100 square feet each. 360 standard 40-foot containers fit inside this volume, with room to spare. Estimated gross weight, 14,000 tons. Displacement, 20,000 tons. And the goal was not to navigate. No rudder, sail, or propulsion, just to float for as long as necessary. The mountain and the obstacle. Mount Ararat is the traditional target of all research on the Ark, the peak where Genesis 8:4 says it rested after the flood. But getting up there is where the story gets really complicated. The top is covered by about 15 square miles of permanent ice, up to 30 feet thick or more in some areas. Geological transformations over centuries, volcanic eruptions, Ararat is an extinct volcano, frequent earthquakes in the region, and landslides drastically modified the surface. The Ark may be completely buried, broken in pieces, or dozens of feet below what any radar has reached today. Besides, geopolitics makes any heavy expedition almost impossible. The main peak sits in Turkish territory, but the border region involves historic tensions with Armenia, which sees Ararat as a national symbol. Azerbaijan, conflicts in the South Caucasus, and to a lesser degree, Iraq, due to nearby Kurdish borders. Although there is no simultaneous claim of 4 countries over the exact top, it is clear Turkish sovereignty. Permits for advanced research require coordination with Turkish authorities, and restricted military zones limit access. Permissions for serious scientific expeditions on the frozen peak never fully happened in an open way. The Durupinar alternative. It is exactly in this scenario of extreme difficulties that ancient eyewitness accounts gain extra weight, and modern research looks for viable alternatives. In recent years, the focus shifted to a much more accessible place, the Durupinar site. This is an impressive boat-shaped geological formation located just about 20 miles south of Mount Ararat's peak in the Agri province, Turkey. Discovered in 1959 by a Turkish pilot during mapping flights, the structure measures approximately 515 feet in length, aligning perfectly with the biblical dimensions of the Ark. And it is there that the most advanced research is happening today. Less ice, more stable ground, and easier access by nearby roads. Teams like Noah's Ark Scans, collaborating with Turkish researchers from Agri Ibrahim Seten University and Americans, used GPR, ground-penetrating radar, ERT, LiDAR, and chemical analysis since 2019. The GPR data confirms high moisture in the ice. I will scan with LiDAR to map the surface. Perfect. Prepare the IR for the next session. The results include underground anomalies, linear corridors, a central one about 13 feet wide, right-angle structures suggesting internal layers, possibly 3 decks, hollow spaces up to 20 feet deep, and soil with organic matter levels nearly 3 times higher inside the formation than outside. The two men, the heart of the mystery. George Hagopian was an Armenian shepherd in the early 20th century, living in the Mount Ararat region. During a few especially warm summers, part of the ice on the mountain slopes melted, revealing something unusual. When he was still a child, Hagopian said he climbed up to this structure, guided by his uncle, in the region known as Ahura Gorge. What he described decades later caught the attention of researchers who recorded his testimony. He spoke first of the exterior. Wood, darkened by time, almost petrified, hard as stone. It did not look like an ordinary vessel abandoned there. It looked like something very ancient, preserved by the ice for generations. Then he described the interior. According to him, there were separate compartments and different levels, like decks. The structure seemed organized, with clear internal divisions, something that, in his view, made sense to shelter animals. And he made an important observation. At that time, the structure was whole. There were no visible cracks. It was intact. Decades later, another account would emerge. Ed Davis was a soldier in the U.S. Army. In 1943, during World War II, he was stationed in Iran. According to his own testimony, local guides took him to a high region, from where it was possible to observe high areas of Ararat. What he described had striking similarities. He also spoke of a large wooden structure on the mountain slopes. We went up the north face. The structure is made of tough wood, with 3 internal decks connected by ladders. Understood. And the wood, and the O. He spoke of the ancient look of the wood. He spoke of internal levels, as if there were decks. But he mentioned a different detail. The structure was broken in half. The ark was broken in half. 2 pieces separated by the slope, with parts exposed from the ice. The verdict. Now, pause for a moment. 2 men, different countries, separated by decades. No contact between them, no access to each other's accounts. Even so, both describe the same type of structure on the slopes of Mount Ararat, with the same main details, but with one discrepancy. George Hagopian said the structure was intact. Decades later, Ed Davis claimed it was broken. No one coordinates a discrepancy. The explanation may be in the very place where these accounts happened. Mount Ararat sits in one of the most active seismic regions on the planet. There, 3 tectonic plates meet: the Anatolian, the Arabian, and the Eurasian. Over centuries, violent earthquakes repeatedly hit this region. Between one visit and another, a geological event could have completely altered the state of the structure. In this case, the difference between the accounts does not weaken the story. It can actually make it even more plausible. Conclusion. The accounts classically point to the high peak of Mount Ararat. Glacial areas, difficult to access. But 20 miles south, Durupinar appears. Lower ground, a boat-shaped formation. What is this? Remnants displaced by erosion? Fragments of the original structure? Post-flood landslides? The ancient accounts focus on the high ice, not Durupinar. And yet, when you add independent coincidences with the underground anomalies detected today, The weight of these accounts changes. They do not contradict each other, they complement each other, an enigma that challenges simple explanations. And maybe the answer was all the time in the biblical text itself. Genesis 8:4 does not say Mount Ararat. It says the mountains of Ararat, in the plural, an entire mountain range, which means the ark could be exactly where the two men said it was, or at Durupinar, 20 miles south. Both are part of the same ridge. The Bible does not contradict itself. It simply was more precise than we realized. The most accepted location is Mount Ararat, right? Yes, but the Durupinar evidence is convincing. I agree, the geological formations are intriguing. Ancient historians, before technology. The search for the Ark did not begin in the satellite era. Centuries before modern technology, historians from completely different cultures were already recording accounts of an ancient structure in the mountains of Armenia. One of the first was Flavius Josephus, a Jewish historian from the 1st century. The remains of the Ark are still shown to visitors in the mountains. They are still there. A verifiable fact. Another record comes from Berossus, a Babylonian priest and historian. Pieces of the Ark's wood are removed from the mountain and used as amulets, spiritual objects that people carried with them. Someone was climbing that mountain and coming back with wood. Centuries later, the Greek historian Abydenus also mentioned traditions of a great ship preserved in the mountains of Armenia. There are many traditions about a great ship preserved in the mountains of Armenia. 3 historians, 3 different cultures, Jewish, Babylonian, Greek, 3 different eras. None of them were trying to prove the Bible. I am skeptical about the Bible. I am only talking about traditions, nothing more. They were recording what was known in their time. And they all pointed to the same place. The same place we call today Mount Ararat. Make the Ark well. We don't know how long the flood will last. A farmer with no engineering. The construction and logistics. The wood used was gopher wood, generally translated as cypress. Remarkably resistant to water and decay. Water tanks over 200 years old made with this wood still exist in the United States. 3 decks, ventilation of 18 inches along the entire length. Separate compartments by animal type. 2 lower decks were submerged and cold, keeping temperatures between 43 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. All planned in the original design. Noah was a farmer. He had never built a boat. No formal engineering, no prior reference, no shipbuilding school. The project required complex structural calculations, strict choice of the right wood for each part of the structure, management of labor over decades, financial control and food supply for years. Researchers calculated that with 4 dedicated workers today, it would take more than 450 years to build something of this scale. It will take about 450 years to finish. Yeah, it looks like it, but let's move forward. Noah didn't do enough. Noah did the impossible. The animal problem and baraminology. The problem of the animals, and why it is smaller than it seems. 1.3 million known species exist today. This is the most common objection against the historicity of the Ark. How would Noah fit them all inside? The answer begins with a distinction that changes everything. He didn't need to. About 1 million of these species are fish and insects, creatures that survive outside the Ark, in the water, or on floating logs. But there is something even more important. The Hebrew word used in Genesis for kind does not match the modern concept of biological species. It refers to a basic type. What scientists today call baramin. A couple of dogs, for example, carries enough genetic information to generate all the breeds that exist today. From the Chihuahua to the St. Bernard. They are not different species. They are variations within the same basic type. With this criterion, the conservative estimate drops to about 16,000 animals. And the Ark had capacity for up to 120,000 animals, the size of an adult sheep. Space was never the problem. Dinosaurs and the young Earth model. Answering the question from the beginning. Did dinosaurs enter as well? What if dinosaurs and humans had coexisted? Mainstream science says this is impossible. According to it, 66 million years separate the two. But there is a detail rarely mentioned. There are at least 7 scientific perspectives that try to explain the story of Noah's Ark. In this video, we will focus on one of them, the young Earth theory, also called creationism. This perspective defends that the Earth is only a few thousand years old, something between 6,000 and 10,000 years. Within this model, all the animals on the Ark could have coexisted, including creatures we only know today as fossils. That is, dinosaurs and humans would have lived in the same period. Extinctions, fossils, and the distribution of animals across the planet would be explained not by slow geological eras, but by a relatively recent global catastrophic event. And there are still ancient records, biblical descriptions, and archaeological evidence that at the very least deserve an honest analysis. And that is exactly what we are going to do now, without fear, with our eyes open. The dating issue. When talking about dinosaurs, everything is millions of years. But what if it's not like that? Let's go another way. Scientific methods measure rocks and layers of Earth, and they start from a belief that the Earth has always changed at the same pace, slowly, constantly from the beginning. But could a global catastrophic event, a flood of planetary proportions, deposit in weeks all the layers we interpret today as millennia? Could it change the atmosphere? Alter everything? The belief in millions of years is not a proven fact. It is a choice that science made. Replace that choice with a global catastrophe model like the flood, and what were millions of years becomes thousands or less. Going this way, the coexistence of humans and dinosaurs stops being absurd and becomes possible. Behemoth and Leviathan, 3 types of dinosaurs in the Bible. But the word dinosaur doesn't even appear in the Bible. Could it be it didn't exist? Until 1841, when a scientist named Richard Owen created it. Before that, these creatures had another name. Dragons, monsters, reptiles, giants. But in the Bible there is a word for this, tannin. It means exactly that. Giant and terrifying creature. Now look at this. In the book of Job appears the behemoth. Some say it's a hippopotamus or an elephant, but the text says, its tail moves like a cedar. A cedar is a giant tree, 30 to 100 feet tall. Now think, a hippopotamus has a tail of a few inches. Does that match, or does it match more with a long-tailed dinosaur, a sauropod? The tail of a sauropod was long, powerful, and rigid, like the trunk of a cedar. And it doesn't stop there. There is also the Leviathan, impenetrable scales, impossible strength to master, smoke in the nostrils, fire coming out of the mouth. Could it be poetic language? Maybe. But the text describes a real creature, impossible to capture. A crocodile? No. The text itself says no man can master it, so what is this? Some point to large extinct marine reptiles. Creationists connect them to surviving aquatic or terrestrial dinosaurs post-flood. In the end, we have 3 clear categories. Tannin, a general term for giant creatures. Behemoth, a colossal land creature. Leviathan, a powerful and indescribable creature. The question is no longer, are dinosaurs in the Bible? The question is, are we ignoring how they were described? Logistics of the reptile. If this is true, how would a dinosaur fit inside the Ark? The answer is simpler than it seems. Noah did not need to take a giant adult dinosaur. A baby Brachiosaurus, for example, is born about 3 feet long and weighs around 55 pounds, the size of a large dog. It takes up much less space, eats much less, grows slowly, and still has its whole reproductive life ahead. In addition, scholars who analyze the classification of animals in the Bible estimate that there were between 60 and 80 original families of dinosaurs. Not thousands of different species, but larger groups from which all the variety we know from fossils developed after the flood. The Ark had enough volume to hold about 120,000 animals the size of a sheep. When you do the math, the space was more than enough, but there is something even more intriguing outside the biblical text. Ancient civilizations around the world left representations of huge reptilian creatures. Long necks, immense tails, scales, some with wings. What draws attention is that these civilizations had no contact with each other. Ancient China, medieval Europe, the ancient Middle East, and the ancient peoples of America. Each, on their own, describe similar creatures. Some descriptions are generic, great serpents, monster legends, but others are just too specific to be a coincidence. How is it possible that peoples separated by oceans and centuries described the exact same creatures? One possibility. These animals survived the flood for generations, coexisting with human beings for a time. And they gradually went extinct due to climate changes, reduction of vegetation, and human pressure. What cultures around the world called dragons might have been, in reality, the actual memory of creatures that once existed. The Bible was not written as a natural history book. Its focus is the relationship between God and human beings. But when we look closely at the details, the text does not run from hard questions. It invites us to investigate. And you, what do you think of all this? Termites in a wooden ark. For 371 days. Have you thought about that? And the rabbits? Has anyone calculated what would happen to rabbits loose for nearly a year inside a closed space? Would it be the end of everything even before the water receded? These are the jokes. They are funny, but they hide real objections, and real objections deserve real answers. Let's start with the termite. The termite didn't even enter the ark. Insects survive outside, on logs floating on the surface. The ark's wood was safe. Beyond this observation, there is the detail in Genesis 6:14. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and outside with pitch. Pitch is tough, a natural sealant used since antiquity to waterproof and protect wood. Even if a stray termite tried something, the wood would be chemically protected. Now, the giraffe. 23 feet tall. The ark had just over 13 feet of clearance per deck. Impossible, right? Wrong. Rarely does a zoo transport an adult animal. Handling juveniles is always easier, because young ones take up less space. They eat less, stress less, and adapt better. A baby giraffe, 3 feet tall, a baby elephant, 20 inches, and the rabbits, 2 young ones. A cold and dark environment on the lower decks, torpor, reduced metabolism, reproduction practically halted, no population explosion. God did not command Noah to go around the world hunting adult animals. He brought the animals to Noah, young, healthy. With all the genetic information necessary to repopulate the planet later, the ark was not impossible. It was engineering, it was biology, it was planning. We have already seen that the biggest challenge was not space, but keeping everything alive for 13 months inside a closed structure, without veterinarians, without industrial refrigeration, without automated systems. But there is a detail rarely considered. Did you know that some animals enter natural states like torpor and hibernation? The heart of an active animal beats between 30 and 50 times per minute. In hibernation, it can drop to 3 to 5. Breathing slows down. Metabolism almost stops. In this state, animals need very little food. They produce almost no waste. They remain inactive for long periods. The lower decks of the ark, cold, dark, and isolated, could function as an ideal environment for this type of condition in many species. And this is not a religious thing. Bears do this in winter. Bats do this in caves. In other words, the solution already exists in nature itself, the aquatic ecosystem and the return. Now another question arises. But what about saltwater fish? Wouldn't they die in the fresh waters of the flood? In Brazil, something similar happens to this day. The Negro River and the Solimões River are completely different. Temperature, density, and chemical composition. Yet they run side by side for miles without mixing. This phenomenon shows that distinct waters can coexist over long distances. During the flood, pockets of fresh water and salt water could have remained separated, preserving aquatic ecosystems without the need for additional intervention. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell, because the next analyses will dive even deeper into this investigation.